She stands outside the ICU, barely breathing. Her hands shake, and her knees feel like they might give out, but she doesn't move. Behind the glass wall, her daughter lies still, tubes in her nose, machines blinking and beeping around her. A quiet rhythm of life, or the edge of it. A doctor steps out, his voice low, careful, like he's choosing each word to slowly. She might not wake up, he says, just 5 words. But they hit like a truck. The mother doesn't scream. She doesn't argue. She simply stares, as if the world has frozen, her lips pressed tight. A tear slips down her cheek, another. She walks to the chair nearby, lowers herself gently, and buries her face in her hands. For a moment, she breaks. Then she lifts her head. Her eyes no longer soft. They are sharp, cold, clear. This isn't just grief now. This is something else, something stronger. The pain hasn't left, it's just been turned into purpose. She stands back up, slowly, like someone who knows exactly what comes next. She stares through the glass at her daughter, then whispers, almost to herself, they just made the biggest mistake of their lives. It was just a regular afternoon. Alicia, only 18, stood outside a store, laughing on a video call with her mom. The sun was out. She wasn't doing anything wrong, just standing there, talking, smiling. Then the white police officers pulled up fast. Their faces were hard, serious. One of them stepped toward her and said, "What are you doing here? You match a suspect's description." Alicia froze, confused. She held up her phone, still on the call, and said softly, "I'm just talking to my mom." But they didn't care. The second cop reached out, snatched the phone from her hand. "Don't get smart with me," he snapped. Alicia's heart raced. "I didn't do anything," she tried to say, but they were already grabbing her arms. One of them shoved her to the ground. The other put a knee on her back. She screamed. People around started recording. Within seconds, it was over. Alicia lay still, her head turned sideways on the concrete. Her phone buzzed beside her. Her mom was still on the line. One of the cops looked around nervously, saw people filming. He leaned over to the other and muttered, "We need to clean this up now." In a quiet room filled with papers, legal books, and glowing computer screens, Dr. Nina Carter sat completely still. Her hands rested on her lap, but her mind was racing. Just hours ago, she was a mother praying for her daughter to survive. Now, she was something else. The pain was still there, but so was the fire. She picked up her phone and made one call. "Activate Protocol 7, she said firmly. "I want full access to all body cams, street cams, and dispatch logs from Sector 9, right now." The person on the other end didn't ask questions. They just said, "Yes, Dr. Carter." This wasn't her first time dealing with dirty systems. Before she became a civil rights lawyer, Nina was a federal investigator. She'd taken down crime rings, corrupt officials, and men who thought they were untouchable. And now, they had hurt her child. She turned to the wall in front of her, where multiple monitors came to life. One screen showed live police data. Another pulled up video archives. Her fingers moved fast over the keyboard. No anger in her face, just focus. She wasn't just a mom in pain anymore, she was the storm coming for them. Nina's eyes scanned the screen as the body cam footage loaded. No cuts, no edits, just the raw truth. She pressed play and leaned in. There was Alicia standing on the sidewalk, phone in hand, calm and harmless. Then the officers stepped in. Their tone was rough from the start. They didn't ask questions. They didn't wait. They grabbed her, threw her down. The sound of her screaming filled the speakers. Nina didn't blink. She watched it all, second by second, her face still, but her jaw tight. Then came the part that burned deep. After Alicia stopped moving, one officer laughed. The other said, "She's out cold, serves her right." They joked as if her daughter wasn't a person, as if she didn't matter. Nina clicked through the dispatch logs next. No real reason for the stop. No match, no warning, nothing. It was all built on a guess, and they acted like it gave them power to do anything. She saved the footage, then uploaded it, not just to one place, to everywhere. Within minutes, it spread. People watched. People got angry. The internet lit up with the truth. Nina didn't look for comfort. She just whispered to herself, "Now they can't hide." The video hit the internet like a spark in dry grass. Within hours, it was everywhere: phones, TVs, news feeds. People watched in shock as Alicia, a young black girl, was slammed to the ground for doing nothing. The sound of her crying out, the way the officers joked afterward it lit a fire across the country, news anchors couldn't ignore it. Headlines filled every screen. Teen beaten by police while on video call with mom. Protesters started gathering outside the police station, holding signs, chanting her name. Hashtag spread fast, hashtag justice for Alicia, hashtag she was just standing there. Nina didn't hide. She stood in front of cameras with a calm voice and strong eyes. My daughter is fighting for her life, she said. And now I'm fighting for justice. She didn't yell. She didn't need to. Her words hit harder because they were true. The police department tried to respond, but their statements felt cold, weak, too late. The world had already seen the truth, and Nina had more than just the footage. She had a plan, and she wasn't stopping until someone paid for what they did to her daughter. The sun was barely up when Nina walked into the police station. She didn't come alone. Behind her were federal agents, the lawyers, and a few reporters already rolling their cameras. The front desk officer stood up fast, confused. "You can't just walk in here like this," he said. Nina didn't even slow down. She walked straight to the chief's office and pushed the door open. The chief of police looked up, surprised, but not for long. She dropped a thick file onto his desk, under Section 1983. She said calmly, "Your department is now under investigation for civil rights violations." He tried to argue, but she cut him off. "You covered for them, 17 complaints, ignored. Dispatch logs altered, bodycam footage buried." Then she pulled a USB drive from her pocket and placed it on the desk. "This is everything, every lie, every tape, every voice." The chief stared at her, silent now, outside the office. Reporters snapped photos through the glass. Nina didn't smile. She wasn't here for that. She was here to make sure the people who hurt her daughter answered for it. No more excuses. No more hiding. Time was up. The next morning, it was all over the news. The same officers who had slammed Alicia to the ground were being led out of the police station in handcuffs. Their heads were down, faces pale, surrounded by flashing cameras and shouting reporters. They didn't look so tough now. One tried to cover his face. The other just stared at the ground. Nina watched it unfold. From her living room, the same room where she'd once paced back and forth, praying for her daughter to wake up. Now, she sat still, hands folded, eyes locked on the screen. The chief of police had been suspended. Internal Affairs had launched a full review. Other officers were being questioned. Some were already packing their things. The whole building felt like it was cracking open. People in the community started gathering again this time, not just to protest, but to celebrate. Finally, something was happening, but Nina didn't smile. Not yet, because Alicia was still in that hospital bed, and until her daughter opened her eyes, it wouldn't feel like a win. She looked out the window as the news anchor spoke. Justice had started, but it still wasn't over. The hospital room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines and the low hum of air moving through the vents. Nina sat beside Alicia's bed, holding her daughter's hand like she had every day since it happened. The TV on the wall played the news, showing clips of the officers being taken into custody and people gathering outside with signs that read, "Justice for Alicia," but Nina wasn't watching. Her eyes were only on her daughter. Alicia hadn't moved in days. Doctors still weren't sure what would happen. Nina gently brushed hair from her forehead and whispered, "It's over, baby. I did what I had to do." Just then, Alicia's fingers twitched. So small, so light, Nina almost missed it. She sat up straighter, holding her breath. Then, another movement, this time stronger. Alicia's eyes fluttered. Nina gasped, "Alicia?" She said softly, her daughter's eyelids open, slow and unsure, like waking from a long, heavy sleep. Tears spilled down Nina's face as she leaned in and kissed her forehead. "I'm right here. You're safe now," she whispered. For the first time in what felt like forever, there was light in the room. A few weeks later, Nina sat in a large room, facing a long table of officials and lawmakers. Cameras were set up in the back, and the room was full. Some people whispered quietly. Others just watched. But when Nina spoke, everything went still. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. "My daughter wasn't a danger," she said. She wasn't armed. She wasn't yelling. She was just standing there, talking to her mom, and they beat her until she couldn't open her eyes. Her voice shook for a second, but she kept going. "If I didn't have the skills, the training, the tools, I don't know what would have happened. That's the problem. Most parents don't have what I had." And that's why so many stories end before they begin. People in the room looked down. Some nodded slowly. A few wiped their eyes. This isn't just about Alicia. This is about every child who's ever been treated like they don't matter until this system changes. None of our children are truly safe. The silence that followed said everything. Even the judge couldn't find the words. Nina didn't come to make noise. She came to make change. And now, they had no choice but to listen. This story wasn't real, but it could have been. That's what makes it hurt. What happened to Alicia is something too many families know too well. A child just minding their business. A mistake by people in power. A system that's slow to admit it did anything wrong. And a parent left to fight for justice alone. But Nina's story reminds us that silence doesn't fix anything. Standing up, even when your heart is breaking, can make the world pay attention. If you've ever seen something like this, if you've ever felt helpless watching someone be mistreated, you're not alone. This kind of pain shouldn't be normal, and it doesn't have to be. Share your story, speak up, ask questions. Justice doesn't begin in courtrooms, it begins when people stop turning away. Let's not wait for the next Alicia to open our eyes. Let's keep them open now.